Hello, everyone. I am the Worm, and this is Raging Loop. And I have to say, it's good that I decided to record a couple episodes ahead. Last few days I've been quite sick, actually, and I've been coughing up my lungs, and it's just been very unpleasant. But luckily, I had, enough episodes from both the series I'm recording currently to use during those days. But now I've reached the end of my stock, so to speak, so I've got to continue on. I'd just like to point out that, I'm not over it yet, although I'm hoping I'm at the tail end of it. So there may be some pauses, or if I sound a bit strange, that's probably why. Other than that, I think this should just be going as normal. But of course, along with that, it has been a few days, so I quickly skimmed through the last episode just to try and catch myself up a bit. And yes, we finished all our preparations, and we went through a brief sort of thinking session with Haraki, and we are now emerging onto it's the first day after the mist, so presumably we will have our first feast, and we'll also have to see if the journalist survived. That's a very important part. But other than that, I don't think that's going to be the big question. It's going to be the status of the journalists, and then whether or not all three of us can enter the feast. But I'm going to assume if we're all alive, then we're probably going to be able to get into the feast. Let me make sure. Okay, it looks like I'm recording. The video I recorded before this one a few days ago was the other series I'm currently playing, and I unfortunately screwed up the recording for that. So excuse me. So I want to make doubly sure that I have this correct. Okay. Let's continue on. My eyes were closed, but it was bright. That could only mean that morning had come. No. Well, yes, but there was something more important. I'd actually closed my eyes and fallen asleep. I got to my feet. Actually, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Sure enough, it was morning. I'd actually ended up sleeping. Well, that meant that, since I'd completed my preparations, I was actually invited to the feast. That was proof that as long as you had a place to stay, you could participate in the feast, even if you'd only lived here for one day. It was 6 o'clock right now. I'd gone to bed way too early, but that provided me a good night's sleep. I couldn't sense any beasts outside. Without any hesitation, I opened the door. Sure enough, there was mist. Last time, the first one who'd come to meet me was Chemi, but that was later than it was now. Was I supposed to wait before making a move? No. This was a chance to learn something I hadn't last time. I couldn't let this opportunity slip me by. Yasumizu was eerily silent. I couldn't see anything. My whole body was covered in cold mist, and I was all alone. It reminded me of my time wandering the endless riverbed before death. Crap. People despaired when they were cold, hungry, alone, and could barely see. This was unavoidable, and not something I could win against. I had to find someone right away. Suddenly I heard an angry shout from nearby. It made me turn rigid, and then... Kanzo, early riser, I guess. Kanzo Makashimashi came out of the mist, gun in hand.
おはようございます。
今起きたか。
ええ、特に何事もなく。
腹、見たか。
は？
使いの加護は腹に出る。
Oh yeah. Chimmy had told me that last time. Also mentioned something about Mako not being able to read it.
まだなら、見てこい。
Ooh. Okay, this... We have to be very careful with how we handle this, Haruaki. Okay, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna look right here in front of him? Are you gonna try and make an excuse and not look at it now? What are you gonna do?
はあ、わかりました。
Okay. Acting like I didn't know what he was talking about, I returned to the hut. Okay, good. So he's not going to immediately reveal that information. Man, that was close. I hadn't even considered the possibility that I'd have a guardian. Well, it was unlikely, but I'd just check to be sure. I lifted up my t-shirt and exposed my stomach. Okay. You know, I'm pretty sure didn't I talk? It's been a few days, of course, and I only skimmed through the previous episode. Didn't I bring up a possibility where, like, if Haruaki was the spider or snake or something, and then imagine how many choices we could have? You know, choosing who to save or who to suss out. Unfortunately, I don't recognize this symbol. What I saw almost made me shriek. I hadn't even noticed it. I didn't realize there was something like this on my body. It was drawn in a red fluid, most likely blood. It was nothing I'd ever seen before. Also, there was some eerie text there.
鏡。いや、携帯で写真を。
After a bit of trial and error, I finally read what it said. Oh my goodness. The tower lookout, the snake, find the lurking Yomi, cleanse and purify or die. Wow. I think I thought that if we were gonna get a guardian, we'd get something like the crow, because then we wouldn't have decisions to make. But the snake, that's crazy. So maybe it's not such a far-fetched idea that we're gonna have the choice to search anyone we want. Wow. Huh, I don't even... How is this gonna go? Okay, we'll think about this later. A more imminent problem is, what are we gonna do if Kanzo asks us about this? So this mark was the snake's. It clearly said the tower lookout. The description seemed faithful to the original source, and it had a certain aura about it. Find the lurking Yomi. The snake's role was to search for the Yomi Bito. Cleanse and purify or die. Man, not being roundabout at all, are we? Anyway, that meant the corruption would take me if I didn't wash it off, huh? Is that what that means? Okay. I quickly grabbed a wet towel and washed off the freaky warning. It even smelled like blood. I didn't know what it belonged to, though. If it were animal blood, I might have been in danger of catching something. We did see that they, I think it was Chemi last time who was covered in blood. Because of an animal Kanzo caught. So they definitely do have, the villagers do have access to blood. Man, what were they thinking? Anyway, the snake of all things. It belonged to Takumi-san last time. He quickly revealed it, and I assumed the wolves used it to their advantage. After all, the snake was the human's only way of actively confirming who was a wolf or not. This made it even harder for me to die. Oh wait, did I read that correctly? No, I read it right. This made it even harder for me to die. And just like I thought yesterday, the rules had changed a lot. There was now no guarantee that Yasunaga-kun and Tai-san were wolves. They could easily be humans. The same went for everyone else. It was best to assume that I'd been sent back to square one on that front. Wait, how was I supposed to use the snake's power anyway? The blood letters only said that I was the snake and had to wash it off right away. Did someone know? Tai-san told us. Oh man, being sick sucks. Okay, but if I went to ask, I'd basically be telling them I was the snake. Would there be an explanation during the first feast? Probably. There was in the first major route we did. I had no choice but to believe. For now, I would just return to the plaza.
おはようございます。
I walked through the mist as I called out.
兄ちゃん、こっちだ。
Hey, Kanzo. Are you gonna ask about our stomach? I mean, surely, if you wanted to, like, we're not unfamiliar, you know, we have our time looping, but Kanzo doesn't know that. For him, he's just this weird outsider who's just showed up one day and is gonna live with you. So surely, if Kanzo wanted to, you know, he could say, hey, you need to tell me if you have a guardian or not. And then he would expect an answer. But maybe Kanzo believes in the traditions, and so maybe he's not gonna do that. This time I had no problems meeting up with Kanzo-san.
見てきたか。
Oh, okay, here it is.
はい。
どうだった？
He's asking. There we go. My mind stopped for a second. You gotta... Haruaki, you're more clever than I am, so I'm sure you're gonna think of a way to get out of this, but I don't know how I'd get out of it, because you don't want to reveal it, right? You absolutely do not want to reveal it. So what do you say to him? If you're trying to continue giving off the impression you're... Excuse me. If you're trying to give off the impression of an ignorant outsider, you know, what do you say?
どうとは？
なんでもね、間違いだ。
He doesn't push it. He looked away. Was that a leading question just now? If there was something on my stomach, it meant I had a guardian. I was meant to be a newcomer who didn't know anything. Wasn't it unfair to ask me that? Yep, that's just what I was speculating on. If I'd actually said or even implied that there'd been something on my stomach, that would mean that I had a guardian. Or if I said there was nothing, that could be used against me further down the line, putting me at a disadvantage. If he was a wolf who knew the implications of his question... Then again, I felt like he retracted his question because he knew it could lead to that kind of misunderstanding. Shit. I'd love to ask about that, but I couldn't use knowledge I wasn't supposed to have.
牧島さんでしたよね。もう一通り回られたんです。
That seemed like a yes to me.
みんな無事そうですか？
一人死んだ。
What? I thought for sure we'd all make it. Huh?
待ってください。一体何が起きてるのかさっぱり。
騒ぐな。殺すぞ。
Kill. Did he really just use that word so casually?
おとなしくせえ。わしはてめえを信じとらん。
He brandished his rifle again.
僕は何も知らない。何もしてない。
それは宴で決める。
He sure was assertive. Maybe he didn't have a guardian this time. This made me realize I could tell a friend from foe by searching for differences in their behavior from last time around. Wow. I hope you're all caught up in our... Sorry, one second. Ugh. Coughing. Not fun. What was I saying? I hope you're all familiar with everyone's characterization from the last main route. I'm not sure I could confidently say that. So I guess in this instance, the reason why we thought Kanzo had a guardian last time was because he was less assertive, more cautious, and during that one feast he was a part of, he sort of let others lead the discussion, whereas this Kanzo is very much in your face and is okay with just making threats out the gate. So, yeah, I guess, that's gonna be... I'm gonna have to really pay attention to that. Okay, yeah, let's keep going. For now, though, I just had to make it through this awkward moment with Kanzo-san. Soon enough, we were joined by the others. Tai-san, Takumi-san, Kaori-san, Yoshitsugu-kun, the old wolf guy. Takumi-san and Kanzo-san then went to the Misato mansion and the dorm, leaving me with just a woman, a child, and 2 elders.
Oi, Osan.
So who died? I can recall there was at least one choice involving the journalists. I think why am I forgetting his name? The rotund gentleman. You know who I'm talking about. The photographer. I believe there was a choice where we could have swapped living quarters. So we would get the prefab and he would get the dorm. That makes me think maybe he's dead? Huh. I wasn't one of those old farts, damn it.
もしかして僕のことか？
他に誰がいいんだよ。
心外な。それでどうしたの？
てめえ、なんか知らねえの？
え、何かって？
こんな時に休みぞ送りになったんだ。自分だっておかしいと思うだろ。
Yeah, I'm sure it would seem that way.
樋口のクソは何か言ってなかったのかよ。
いや、思いつかないね。
I played it off.
東京からの僕の不運は続いてるみたいだ。肌でわかるよ。 尋常じゃない状況だって。まったくイカれてるよこの霧は。
てめえが言うな、イカれ野郎。
Okay, sorry about that. He said that, but his tone wasn't as antagonistic as before. It actually felt somewhat friendly. I could only guess that my act from yesterday warmed him up to me. A bit, anyway.
義継あんたはまた。
別に揉めてねえよ。つうか無理すんな、顔真っ青じゃねえか。
すみません房石さん、とにかくおとなしくなさい。
構いませんよ。ところでリカ子さんとメイコちゃんはまだでしょうか？
そうね、いつも朝はお早いけど。
長者のことなんざ知らね
え。よしくやめんかね。ちょっとお呼びしてこよ
う。The relationships here are really, the relationships here really were complicated. Soon enough, Tai-san brought Rokako-san and Meiko.
おはようございます。
As she entered the plaza, she looked at our mist-covered faces. Upon seeing mine, she gasped. Then gave me a very slight bow.
お姉ちゃん、お布団で転んだ。足ぶつけて痛い。
Meiko seemed in poor spirits.
後でおまじないをしてあげる。
Magic? I wouldn't have been all that surprised if she was capable of that.
しかしひどい霧ですね。実際に安水の霧に巻かれるのは初めてです。はい、私もそうです。宴をせねばなりませんね。
そうですね。
てめえこれ、どの面下げて宴がどうとか言ってんだよ、長者野郎がよ。
Do you have... Sorry, I just noticed this. Do you have paper clips in your ears? I think I just subconsciously... They just look like earrings. But upon closer inspection... You just... Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Understood.
やめなさい、義継。
I guess it's partially because we didn't spend that much time with him, so... So I suppose, you know, I just didn't examine him that much.
すみません。力不足で。本当に。
ねえ、お兄ちゃん、怖い。
Huh.
俺はてめえを認めてねえ。てめえだって長者の一人に違いねえし、腹の中で何考えてるかわかんねえんだ。
Why does Meiko say Rokako is scary now? That seems different than last time.
なぜそんなに敵視するんだい？それほどまでに長者は憎い存在なの？
当たり前だ。長者がいなきゃおふくろは絶対化けの皮剥いでやっから。
Yoshitsugu-kun sure was aggressive this time. Did he have a guardian? This line of thinking felt dangerous. Making too many assumptions seemed more risky than not knowing anything.
お姉ちゃん。
Rokako-san was inexpressive as always, but I could tell she was feeling depressed.
なんというか大変ですね、ここは。
春明様。
Oh, she's trying. She looked around in confusion before...
よくご無事でよかった。本当に。
She then gave me a smile. Aw, that's a nice face.
いや、さすがに霧程度でどうこうなんてならないですよ。
サラナガ、この下を流れる川ですが、サラナガの霧は黄泉の容器と言われます。富士吉では昔から最大の凶兆と考えられたのです。
You always gotta be careful with Rikako's lines. Just when you think she's finished, you realize it's just a pause.
野里さんも霧が出ると必ず死人が出ると言っていましたね。
She made a stern face unlike any I'd seen on her. Oh my goodness, that is stern. Wow.
野里様は来て間もない春秋様になんてことをお伝えになるのでしょう。
ああ、いえ、こんな霧だから事故が必ず起きるのだと。
それにしても不謹慎です。休みずには今も皆様が住んでおられる。必ず死ぬなどと縁起でもない。
僕は来てまだ1日ですが、リカ子さんは長者の一員としては少し変わっておいでなのでしょうか。
なぜそのような。
いえ、野里さんにしろ上富士吉の人にしろ、休みずに対する物言いが。
私は叱るべき敬意を払うべきと思っているだけです。
The respect it deserves, huh?
富士吉という村の存続は休みずによるところが大きいのですから。
What does this mean? Huh?
どういうことでしょう。
Yeah.
詳しく聞きたいです。
いずれお聞かせします。今はその。
ええ、そんな場合じゃありませんね。
私は休みずを守りたいのです。
Thus, Rikako-san fell silent. Feeling a bit awkward, I resumed waiting. Soon enough, Takumi-san brought Kinosuke-shi to us. He immediately started worrying over Rikako-san as expected, but she seemed unreceptive to him. I might have gotten in the way of his love story. It made me feel kind of bad. Eventually, Kanzo-san returned along with the students.
間宮さん、そこ足元気をつけて。
Okay, so Mamiya is alright.
危ない危ない。
Seeing Asako Mamiya-san with them filled me with relief. Okay, thus, I finally understood what would happen now.
おはようございます。皆さん。
Ignoring everyone's gloomy faces, she forced a smile and greeted us like it was a normal morning. The inhabitants didn't respond. I also had a guess about what had happened, so I had trouble picking my words too.
どうしちゃったんです？確かにすごい霧ですけど、それが一体？あれ？橋本さん、まだ寝てます？
Again, no one responded.
上の方にいるんでしたっけ？ちょっと見てきますね。
無駄よ。
Kanzo-shi opened his mouth, taking it upon himself to say it. I could already hear some stifled sobbing. It was Haru-chan. Not only was she afraid, she'd also realized that a tragedy had occurred. Mamiya-san realized that something was wrong and was about to ask about it when...
でけえのは死んだ。
Yeah. Huh. This guy... Something tells me he doesn't have the best bedside manner. The crude old man just told her what was up.
何を
So what was the deal? Was it he didn't do the preparations properly, or something else?
上ん崩れとるところで死んどる。
Outside.
何を言ってるんですか
She instantly lost her composure. The unnatural aura around here was suddenly starting to get to her.
ふざけないでください。今朝一番で車を直してここから出ないといけないんです。私起こしてきますから。
勝手に動くんじゃねえ。
何の権限が。
牧島さん。
I raised my voice because Kanzo reached for his gun again.
冗談でしょ。何これ。ああ、ドッキリとかパンクしたとこから。それならわかる。
僕らはあなたたちのルールをまだ知らないんだ。銃を向けてあなたの思うように動くとは限りませんよ。
なんだてめえは。
ああ、やめとけおやっさん。どうしちまったんだ。人には絶対銃を向けんなって普段やかましいあんたがよ。
Kanzo silently lowered the gun.
ドッキリじゃないなら犯罪だわ。やりすぎよ。今すぐやめて。ここから出ていくわ。
That is still probably a bad idea, though.
間宮さんだっけか。悪いがそういうわけにはいかねえんだ。霧が晴れるまでは絶対に山に入っちゃダメだ。それに言いにくいがあんたの相棒はもういねえ。やられちまってる。
やられた。殺された。何を言ってるのよ。だから
匠連れてけ。
あんた血を見ても平気か。
冗談なのよね。
僕も行きます。あの人にはお世話になったから。
あと悪いが手借りる。
With the cleanup, I assumed.
わかりました。
私も行きます。メイコはここにいなさいな。
私も行く。
俺も行く。そんなもんでビビらね
え。くだらん。霧で迷って転びでもしたか。うちの辞書のことなら一応見に行かねばな。まったく面倒だ。
We got so many volunteers that, besides the old people in Mako, the only ones who ended up staying were Kaori-san and Haru-chan, both of whom didn't look so good. Takumi-san led us uphill. Since we went through the fields, some of us fell or got stuck, so we took a whole 10 minutes. Still, we arrived at the scene of the crime. What I saw there was almost exactly the same as what I saw last time. Okay, so a corruption death. There was a brutalized corpse. It was close to the prefab, next to the waist-tall boulder, which did little to hide the large body. It was thoroughly destroyed. The entire frame had been torn apart and bent as if to systematically detach his muscles, insides, and bones from his body. The only thing that hinted at who this once was were the scattered pieces of clothing and the impressive amount of flesh. Once again, Yudai Hashimotoshi failed to survive the first night.
夜外に出ちまったか。
What was he doing? As Takumi-san muttered to himself,
何よそれは
Mamiya-san finally broke her disbelieving silence with a hysterical scream.
何があったっていうの橋本さんはどうなったの何がどうしたらこんな
間宮さん落ち着いて。
これがどうやって落ち着けっていうのなんでこんなことになってるのこんな
Mamiya-san stopped mid-sentence and began puking. She'd either screamed herself into vomiting or... or caught a direct glimpse of the corpse.
わめきたいのはこっちも同じだ。冗談じゃねえ。昔話に殺されてたまるか。
知ってたんですか？
ん？
こうなるってこと知ってたんですか？
I asked him, while feigning anger and despair.
知ってたわけじゃねえ。しかし、昔からそういう話はあった。霧が出ると人が死ぬってな。
それは事故が原因のはずだ。
ああ、俺もそう思ってたよ。長者どもの説明を信じてな。やっぱ嘘だったってわけだな。
嘘とはなんだ。今回だってなんだ。その狼が蘇ったなどというつもりか。
とぼけんじゃねえ。化け物も神様もそう簡単に出てたまるか。どうせ長者が獣でもけしかけたんだろうが。
おやめなさい、お二人とも。
Rokako-san's faint yet stern voice cut their argument short. She then faced Hashimoto-san's body and lowered herself before it.
宴の支度をし損じられた。マロードをもてなすべき私たちに帰する席です。
Yes. Well, I thought that, he left, so... But that makes sense. That's part of the preparation. Yep, gotcha.
せめて安らかに夜道を歩まれますよ。
Okay.
汚れは私が引き取る。
Yeah, Rokako, could you elaborate on this a bit? Because last time it made you a zombie, so I'm not sure you should do this again. Just, to be frank. Rokako-san then...
何を？
Uh-oh, Rokako-san was inching her face closer to the pile of flesh and bone when...
どいて
Mami-san suddenly cut in, stopping her. Was she going to eat it or something?
おい、何してんだ、やめろ。
止めないで
Her voice and face were borderline demonic. None of us could bring ourselves to stop her. Which, her reaction is reasonable. She leapt over to the corpse, and, ignoring the blood, began sifting through the remains with her hands. Ugh.
絶対あるはず
I suddenly realized what she was doing.
手伝います。
She didn't respond, nor stop me. She'd completely lost her cool. But that madness was under control. It was clear that this wasn't some unreasonable panic. After all, he must have had it. I began helping her roughly, searching the body.
春明さん、何してるの？
What are we looking for? Maybe his camera? He's a photographer?
カメラだよ。こ
Ah,
の人なら
okay.
何かを
Yeah.
撮っているかもしれない。
This kill was the same as the last loop, the body torn apart with no rhyme or reason. I felt something stiff on my hand. It was hair. I was close to the head.
深く考えるな。
His camera must have been on his neck. I could follow this hint, and I felt a cord on my hand.
ありました。
どこに
It was a thoroughly broken, expensive-looking digital camera. It must have cost a fortune, but Mamiya-san didn't care and just opened it.
化け物が化け物なんているもんですか
She muttered that in delirium, took out its memory card, and threw the camera away. Excuse me, took out its memory card, threw the camera away, and ran off.
どこ行くの？もう、匠兄ちゃん、あとお願い。
The two disappeared into the mist. Is there something in the van she could use to look at the photo or something?
なんかわかるか？やっすん。
Hey, boys.
大したことは。ただ、やっぱり、プレハブにはトイレがないんだ。
Oh, do you think? I see. Oh. So he had to leave to take care of his business. He didn't know how important the preparations were, so this result was obvious. I should have been the one to stay in the prefab. He died because of me. But I couldn't let myself wallow in regret. Rokako-san approached the body again, but Takumi-san put his hand on her shoulder.
あんたもそういうのはいらねえ。
しかし
長者のわけわかんねえもんに頼りたくねえし、頼らせたくねえ。
Okay, a part of me now is worrying that, man, I don't know. Does she eat the bodies or something? And what is it? I might be getting this wrong. Isn't it something where excuse me. My throat. Ugh. Isn't it something with cannibalism where... Oh, what am I thinking of? I think it starts with a P. Like, isn't there some kind of thing that if you cannibalize, it potentially it gives you a disease or could drive you insane? Like, isn't that what mad cow disease was? Weren't they feeding the cows other cow meat, and then that was what that was? That was years ago. I feel like that's true. There's a specific word I'm thinking. Something. I can't remember. Well, if that is the case, then I guess one explanation for Rakako's fate was she may have been cannibalizing the corpses, and that made her go insane? Oh, I don't even want to think of that. Ugh. Let's see.
そのうちもっとひどいことになる。植松は貧乏くじだろうが、手だけ合わせとけ。
Takumi-san's tone was neither calm nor sympathetic. I had no idea what he'd meant by the short end of the stick. But for some reason I felt he was protecting her from something.
わかりました。
Rakako-san did as she was told and put her hands together before chanting some sort of prayer. Yoshitsugu-kun watched her with a scowl.
Rikako-san.
Kinosuke missed his chance to talk with her, so he was just frozen in place.
やす、よし、近持ち。みんな連れて戻ってろ。手洗って、飯の支度だ。
わかった。
命令してんじゃねえよ。
りっちゃん、行こう。
野里さん、行きましょう。
別に案内などいらん。行きましょう、リカコさん。
Thus they all left.
悪いな、夫妻氏。
いえ、このくらい頼ってください。
Takumi-san and I began cleaning up Hashimoto-san's body. couldn't remove the door, so we carried him on a board from the destroyed construction site. Oop. Oop. Okay, sorry about that. And so we dropped him into Saranaga. I listened carefully, and I thought I actually heard a splash this time. So there was a bottom after all. Ooh, sorry, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that again. Then why had we gotten lost on that one loop? Okay, I think I'm going to call it here because my throat's killing me. Surprised that Hashimoto-san died. Although that one choice with the prefab seemed to be quite the hint. Let's think. Mamiya-san ran off. I'm thinking to her van. Chiemi followed her. Kanzo's more assertive than last time. Meiko was a bit afraid of Rikako. I think Rikako might have been trying to eat the body. Or at least part of it. Oop. Okay, sorry about all those pauses. I think that's pretty much it. So we'll call it here, and we'll deal with the ramifications of this next time, I suppose. Maybe start our first feast. I've been the Worm. This has been Raging Loop, and boy, do I hope I get over this thing quickly. All right. I hope you're all healthy out there, and I hope you stay that way. See you next time.